Hey folks, what's up? How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine and I'm audible to you guys. Right now, in this particular video, the plan is very simple. I've been introducing how to do testing in React.js as well as like TypeScript, including TypeScript, and we'll be learning that and how to set it up and everything. So we'll learn that, and yeah, let's get started and let's see how we do that. So first thing first, what we'll do is we'll set up a React application for that, right? So before React, let's talk a little bit about the idea of testing. Why do we test? Why do we need to test? And even before React, let's get started with a normal TypeScript project and let's start testing a TypeScript project. Once we know how to test a normal function, right, then we can graduate into something like a React.js, right? So let's get started. The first thing what we'll do is I'll just open my terminal. So here's my terminal, right? I hope so you can see me. Oh, you can't see the terminal? Now I hope so you can see the terminal. Yeah. So I cannot see the chat. Hold on for a second. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So the first thing what we'll do is we'll go to a folder called projects where I keep all my projects, right? And then we'll be creating a small TypeScript project. So we'll call it testing learn. That's a stupid name, but that's kind of okay. So I'm inside that folder called testing learn, and the first thing what we'll do is we'll initiate a new TypeScript we'll initiate a new yarn project inside this. Once we have a new yarn project, the next thing what we'll do is we'll just open this in VS Code or any editor of your choice. You can open this in absolutely anything with what you wish. So here I have a file called package.json. We'll install few things for testing. So we'll install a TypeScript, probably jest, and let's set up a TypeScript environment and then let's think about testing and all. So yarn TypeScript and nodemon and ts node, right? And @type/node, maybe. Yeah, let's install all these. These are like, I'll be setting a very normal TypeScript environment before start to test. Okay, so I have all these things and we'll create an src folder inside which our TypeScript project will be living, and we'll be creating an index.ts file where this is our TypeScript file. Let's log and get started. Not like this. We'll call this is working, right? And then quickly we'll have a tsconfig file. For tsconfig file, what we'll do is I'll just run px tsconfig.json, quickly setting up a TypeScript environment. You probably already be having an environment. Right now I'm setting one. It's completely okay, right? Rather than this, I could hear Arjun Krishna, what's up, how are you? So this is a node project. Yeah, so I have a very normal TypeScript file, right? With these configurations. I would like to remove this base URL right now over here. Great. So we have a TypeScript configuration, whatever, and now we can get started with adding a test script, which will adding a script which basically starts the application. So we can say what we are doing today. So we are doing testing. So how to do testing in React.js and Node.js and TypeScript. So how to test your application, that's the idea. So we'll run a dev script which will run your script in nodemon exec. I think this is how you do it. Here nodemon src/index.ts, right? And I like to do one more thing. If you give like -q flag, your schedule for live stream, it's usually weekends mostly I stream, or at like 7 o'clock roughly. It's not fixed. Like I usually inform it on my Discord, so if you could, yeah, you could ask there. Yeah, so I have a nodemon, and that q flag, right? This q flag is like quiet mode, so it doesn't like it you don't see all those logs of nodemon, so that's good, right? And then we'll be creating a test script, but let's first run it. Let's see, are we even able to set up a TypeScript environment before actually doing some testing? So yeah, that will be interesting. So we'll just do yarn dev, and yes, this is working. You can see this is working because that is what it is written in our TypeScript file. Mocha and chai or jest. We'll be doing jest, Arjun, today. Okay, so now as we have a successful project, more from like only like showing you how to do test, that's like you can learn from any other video like within 15 minutes. I want to actually tell you the idea of testing. Why do we test? Like, why is it even required, and how to test? Like, you must have seen people, they already have programs and they started writing test. That's a very wrong habit. Test is kind of like you write test before and then write your code. And this idea of writing your test before is called TDD. What is TDD? Test driven development. We'll be talking about all these in this particular stream. So yeah, let's get started. All of you guys, I hope so you guys are excited. Let's drink some water. Let's be prepared. Take your coffee, tea, whatever you have, and be relaxed. Right, we are back. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll add jest to our project. Jest, what is jest? Let's have a look at jest. By the way, I'm trying Streamlabs today. This is a new streaming software which I do not used to have before. So just tell me like how's the streaming quality as well. Okay, so this is jest. Jest is like, it's really popular and it's used for testing JavaScript and TypeScript projects. It works with all these projects which you see over here: Babel, TypeScript, Node, React, Angular, Vue, anything TypeScript and JavaScript basically. So how to set it up? It's pretty simple, let me tell you. First, what you do is you just install jest, right? Great. I'm really amazed by desktop application. I am thinking of building one. That's amazing, bro. You could actually, if you want to learn, like, I would highly recommend go to GitHub/dev. Yeah, so I'm building this easy AWS recently. This is like an S3 explorer, so you know S3, right? So it's like this. You could help me to do this one. Yeah, we could, like, this is an open source project. You could start contributing. If you have issues, you could go to issues and create an issue asking questions. I can resolve them. Also, you can post bugs, which I have a lot of them right now. So this is an open source project which you can consider if you want to build desktop applications. Okay, so we have jest in our project now. So now what you can do is you can have a new script, and we'll call it test. And then what we'll just have a jest over here, right? And now this basically detects, like, by default, the default configuration, it detects any file that ends with .test.ts or js, right? It detects that kind of file, and it kind of like runs any test in that particular folder. Now the convention is that inside the source folder you can create a file with tests as a name, right? That could be other thing, or you can have like something like this, right? So you could have like underscore kind of file. This convention, you will see a lot of or you can create separate, like completely separate folder outside your source dictionary having all the tests. It's up to you. What technology should I use? Bro, go for Electron.js, because that's what VS Code, Slack, I think all the desktop applications, all the popular desktop applications which you use recently are made in Electron.js. So go for that. Okay, so we have test, and now what we're going to do is we're going to write the first test of our application, index.test.ts, right? So it's TypeScript. Right. So we have created a folder called index.test.ts in which we are going to write our test. Amazing. So how do you start writing your test? Okay, so like, first of all, let's think of a function, right? Let's think of a function, and let's think of how it would work, right? Possibly. So let's write our requirements first. The first step of writing any test is getting clear what is your requirement for the test. So we'll write, let's create a requirements together. We'll pick something and we'll write. So this is requirements, right? The first requirement which we have is, so what program are we going to build? So let's think of a very simple function. For example, a function which adds up to n. So it could be like, it adds up to whatever digit you give. So if you give 5, it will be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, right? It is like that. So adds the value up to a given number, right? That's one, right? That's the requirement, right? That's a requirement. So what do we want to test? We want to test our add number functions, right? Add number function. So the first kind of like syntax for testing is like you write test, right? And then what is the name of your test? So in our case, the name of our test is add number function, right? So this is the name of our test. So we have written this. Great. Then what you do is you pass a callback function where you actually define your test. So I'll be passing a callback function. I don't know, this is angry at me. Cannot find name test. Did you mean to install? Oh, so we'll have to install the types test. So let's quickly do that. That kind of like solves this issue. So we'll just do this. That installs the type definition of jest. That kind of like will, I think this will not be angry at us then. Yeah, this is not angry. The type definition was not there. Okay, great. So now as we have the type definition as well, we have our test running. And now what you can do is you can, so let's start with a very simple test. So it starts with X. So you have an assertion. What is an assertion? Assertion means something which is true, like something which should be true for that particular function, right? In our case, let's start with not even a function, a very simple assertion that when we do 1 plus 2, right, you know, this should be 3. So this is like a very simple assertion that when you add 1 plus 2, it should be 3. That's a very simple assertion, and that's like the first test. Should I use Z code editor to build this desktop app? You can use absolutely anything, bro. Yeah, Z is quite good. It's amazing. You know, the reason I love Jest a lot, I love Z editor a lot. The only reason why I don't use it is there is no Git functionality. So there is no this Git control. And you know, in my work and in my even general thing, I use Git a lot. So you know, handling all those things becomes a little hard for me on Z. Okay, so now we have a very simple function, and let's try to run this test and let's see what do we get. So what we'll do is we'll just run yarn test, because if you remember, we had a script over here, yarn test, right? So we'll just hit enter and it should find our file, and you can see that it shows pass, and it says one passed. That means we have written one test and it has been passed, right? So typically you would think like, you know, you will write your test and, you know, again go and run, and this is like doing multiple times. It's big hassle, right? So instead of doing it this way, what you can do is you can pass a flag called watch. This will do it. What is it? Will watch your project. Oh, this is not supported for some reason, so we'll write watch all, right? So so if you do watch all, what it will do is it will automatically rerun the test if you make any changes. So for example, if I make it 4, so my test will fail. Now you can see my test failed. So add number failed, right? That's a very simple test you write. Let's go a little one level advanced, right, to this, right, where we'll be having an actual function which we have to test. So let's handle this requirement, right? So let's see how would we do this, right? So let's create first a function, right? We'll not implement the function, it will be just a function, right? So let's create export function add nums, right? So add number, and then what we can do is we can just throw an error over here. We can say function not implemented, right? There you go. So this is a function which has not been implemented yet, and we have a function. So now what we'll do is we'll just import this over here and we'll try to test that function. So what I'm trying to explain you over here is it's called red green test. What is red green test and how does it work? That's the idea I want to teach you right now. So let's like focus right now what I'm trying to do. So first thing what I'll do is I'll import that function. So I'll go to the index file and I'll probably get the add function. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, add nums. And now what I'll do is I'll just say expect add now. So for the first thing is like the first requirement is it could be anything, like it in a JavaScript application the requirement could be the value which you are passing should be of type number, right? So for example, just for showing you how this works, let's take a value, right, which should be of type any, right? So our first thing is, like, this value is should be of type some number, right? So what we can do is we can pass the first function expect, right, function, right, sorry, add nums, which is our function. And let's say if we pass with something which is not number, so something else, let's say, right? So what should we expect? What should happen while they're like, if we pass something which is not a number? It should throw an error, right? It should show like it should simply throw an error saying, the parameter should be a number, right? It typically in TypeScript, yes, you can give a type to this, and that would automatically make your test fail. But I'm just, for the sake of producing an example, I'm just showing you how to do this. So now this should throw an error. So how does that happen? So you say to throw, right? And then you can pass anything. So like it should throw. And one more thing, if you are testing, hold on. If you are testing that, something throws an error, always pass it in a callback function. Why to callback function? Because it needs a scope to throw the error into, right? So that function will be like, the error will be thrown in the scope of this external function that will be available over here. So now to throw will have the number should be, sorry, the param should be a number, right? So let's say this is the error. So now our test case is failing. It's saying like the param should, so cannot use import outside a module. There is some issue with this. So now here comes the next part where we need to have like TS jest configuration, right? So we'll see how to do that, because you cannot use import and all if you don't set up the TS jest right now. So let's see how you can do that. So we'll go over here, we'll write TS jest, right? If you go over here, you can see TS jest. So you can go to get started, and where is TS jest? There you go. So the first thing what you have to do for setting up, so using in TypeScript, you can see in the official documentation they have provided how to do this. So you'll have to like add this preset TypeScript. So we'll add it as a development, right? There you go. We have added that. Next thing what you have to do is you have to create a babel config.js file. Let's quickly do that. Babel config.js file. Next thing, we'll just paste whatever it is given, the configuration. This is the default configuration. You can use this by default. Next, you can install TS jest, right? So I think this would work. Let's see. If this doesn't work, we'll add the TS jest as well. So we'll just run yarn test. One failing. Great. So cannot find preset env. So it's not finding this. What we'll do is we'll just add this as well. Let's quickly add this. Now let's run the test. Yep, great. So now you can see, as we have added all those things, we have a successful working environment, and now we don't need TS jest, right? So it works. So you can see the expected substring was this, but we got a function not implemented. So what did we get? We get a red, right? So this is called red green test, right? So we got a red and we have to make it green. So what is the least amount of thing you can do to turn this red test to a green one, right? What you can do, you can throw this error, right? That's the least amount of things you can do. So let's do that. So let's also make this in the right side so that we kind of, so let's run the test, yarn test, right? Okay, so we'll just say yarn test hyphen watch. Will it work? No, it will not. Yarn test hyphen watch all, right? There you go. Okay, it's running. So our test is failing right now. Let's quickly try to do something minimum thing. So we can remove this throw error, and we can say if, right, type of val is not equal to number, right? If it is something else, then we're gonna throw that same error, right? Which is gonna turn our red test to a green one, right? So if you go, and this was the error we're gonna throw. So there you go. right? So yeah, so we have our test passed, right? So now what is the next requirement? What is the next set of requirements we have? The next set of requirements is the number should be negative. So we don't want to count or add the negative numbers. We only want a positive count up to which we have to add, right? That's the next thing, right? So we'll be adding that. So always add the unit test first and then go and implement that thing, right? So let's add that second thing. So let's add that second test case, and we're gonna say the input should not be a negative number, right? That's the test we want to implement. And what we're going to do is we're going to expect that the what do we expect? So you can like so we'll pass a wrong input, so it will pass like -23, right? And this should throw what it should throw. The number should be a positive number, right? Or like the param should be a positive number. You could have a better message. I'm having very bad messages. You could have absolutely better messages, but this is how you do it. The idea is this, right? You can see now we have our test case red, right? So now we have a red test case. Now we'll turn this test case from red to green by adding whatever smallest change you can add to your function. For example, in this case here, right? So what smallest change can you add? We can add an if condition which checks the number should be like, it should not be less than it should be a positive number. So we can just do if, right, val is less than 0, which is it. If it is negative number, then it's going to throw a new error, right, which will make our test case green. So what is the error it will throw? The param should be a positive number. As soon as we add that, our test will be our test will be positive. So you can see, yeah, so we are passing 2 of the test cases. Pretty much we are successful. So we have this is red green testing. You're getting the gist, right? So we write some truth, we write some assertion in the test. Our test fails because that assertion is not implemented yet. We're gonna implement it. Next, again we're gonna write some assertion, again we're gonna implement it. So this is called red green testing. Okay, so now let's go. By the way, in real world scenario, you write like larger chunks and then you test it. Just to show you this, how does this work, I am just doing this. Okay, next thing is it should return a sum up to that number. That's the function we are implementing, right? That was the requirement. So the function should return, please don't take this video down. Okay, I will not. Okay, so we'll just say test, right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna say should return, right, the sum of the sum from 0 to n, whatever. Like I have given not a very good description. You can definitely give a better description, but we'll try the actual functionality, right? So let's try to give an actual functionality. So we'll say expect, right, add function. So if you are not testing for an error, you do not need to give a callback, right? So if you're not testing for an error, you can directly do it something like this, and then we're gonna pass some parameter, for example 4, right? So what should be the value, what should be the outcome of something which we add till 4? So it should be 1 plus 2, which is 3, plus 3, which is 6, plus 4. So 6 plus 4 is 10. So it should be 10, right? So we said to be 10. So this should be 10. In a real world scenario, you test from multiple values, not a single value. You can see should return the sum of 0 and n. This is the test case which is failed. So this is called red green testing, right? So see, we got a red, and now we're going to convert this test to a green test. So let's see how do we do that. So quickly let's write an algorithm which does absolutely that. So for let I is equal to 0, we'll just say sum is equal to 0. For let I is equal to 1, I less than equal to the val I plus plus, right? And then sum plus equal to whatever the value of I is, and we're going to return the Some should, if we have done the addition properly, this should basically pass our test case, right? So we have passed our test case. That means we have done the good job. Let's write several other test cases as well, so that later on when we change the logic, it is tested across several values, right? So let's quickly do that. So we'll say expect, right, add number, and when we do like till 5, I think it should be 15. Let's see, to be what it should be. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15. So it should be 15, I guess. Yes, our test case is passing. That means we have written correct function, right? So now if you do something like, let's say you are a senior engineer and some intern comes, right, and then he just like thinks like, hey, I want to change the logic. What happens if I if I remove this equal to, and I like make this like I less than val, right? So the intern would not be successful in his whatever he's doing, because as soon as he saves, our test cases would fail, right? The function is tested and now it should be running, and you are damn sure now that this will be performing good in the production as well. So now you see how do you do red green testing. Should we do one more example, or should we move to the React? Anyone? Should we do one more example of red green testing? A little bit difficult version of a little bit like harder version of this function, right? Okay, so let's do one more example, right? So the next example which we're going to try is, we'll be writing a password generator function, right? So let's write the requirement first, right? Let's write a requirement first. So what is our requirements? The requirement is password should be should be at least 4 digits long, right? I don't know, I think I've spelled long wrong. Yeah, so right, so then next requirements could be password parameter should be a number. So that would be taken care of by React, so will not think about that right now. The next requirement is password should be alphanumeric. So password should have an special character. Right, so password should have a special character, and password should be 4 digits long. Password should have at least one number in it, right? So let's say you have been given this requirement, and you have to write a function that tests all these requirements, right? How would you do this? So let's start writing. So by the way, one more thing, right? You can bundle several tests into a single bundle by using describe keyword. So you can use something called describe, which will bundle several test cases together. So this is add number function test cases, right? So we'll just say, so, and we'll rename this thing to I think this is like wrong message. It should be param should be a number, right? Whatever. So now as we have done this, so this will be like a group of test cases. The benefit of this is, in the future, what you can do is you can run these test cases separately, right? But we are not there yet. Once we are so there you go. So this is like now one bundle of test cases, right? The next bundle will test this password function, which we'll be writing next. So let's quickly do that. So we'll say describe, right? Password validation function. That's the test case we're gonna write next. And what is the first requirement? The first requirement is the password should be at least 4 digits long. So let's quickly do that. So what should happen? So let's first create the function. So we'll say function validate password, right? And what will happen is this will accept some string, right? And Yeah, great. So we have some string, and if we give like a wrong password, like the first our first requirement was, if you go to the test, the first requirement is password, it should be at least 4 digits long. It should throw some error, so let's do that. Or it should return false, because the validation has been, it's not valid. So, or it should throw an error. Let's do an error, right? Or let's do an error, right? So you can say expect, right? This function which we have written over here, I think we have exported it. No, we haven't. So we'll export this validate password, right? Validate password. When we give a password, for example, we'll have to do it, because we are throwing an error, we'll have to do it inside a callback function. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna be so we have a validate function. Great. Okay, so first thing is, what test is this? We'll have to write. So it's like password should be minimum, hold on, okay, let's continue. So password should be minimum 4 characters long, right? So this was the test. So if we give like just 2 characters password, like let's say 3F, right, it should throw an error. So we'll say throw, right, and should throw an error. Password should be at least 4 characters long, right? So we have some issue. Okay, so this is not how you do it. So it's test, we forget to write the test. Okay, we have done some mistake, we'll fix it right away. So this is how you do it, and we write it inside a test. So expect should be inside a test, right? So there you go, that's correct. So, and we can remove this one now. Great. So now we have a test which does which checks the password should be minimum 4 character. And now you can see our test has been filled. So now our test is red. We'll convert this test from red to green. How will we do this? We'll write that test, like we'll write that logic over here of testing at str.length should be greater than or equal to 4, or if it is less than 4 digits, it will throw new error. And what error were we expecting? We were expecting this error. So we'll quickly take that from there and paste this. So correct. So now all our test is green, because this is the exact error we wanted to throw, right? If the password is less than 4 characters. What is the next requirement, right? What is the next requirement? Let's make our test case again red, because we have a new requirement, which is password should have a special character. So it should have at least 1 special character, right? So how will you do this? We'll say should have an special character, right? And then if there is no special character, right, so we'll say expect once we execute the validate password function, right? And if there is no special character, for example, we have like given a password and there's no special character, we'll say throw, and it should throw an error saying should at least have 1 special character, right? So this is the error it should throw. Let's quickly go and implement this over here. How will we do this? We'll say str dot should have at least one special character. I think we'll have to get the regex. So let me actually go and get the regex for this. So we have just asked ChatGPT currently. We'll just get that. Oh, so this is the regex we want. So we'll just take this regex and we'll just test. right? So if this fails, so if this dot test our string, right? So if this doesn't happen, so if this is false, which is if it does not have an regex, right, or special character, I mean, so then we'll throw an error. So we'll say so, right? So now our test should be green. Yeah, we have a green test case. Great. So now we have these two test cases fulfilled. What is the third requirement? Why I'm doing this again and again is because I want you to get habituated with how to do the testing, right? It should be like you write your logic first in your test case and then you go and implement them. It should not be the opposite. It should not be like you have already done the implementation and then you're writing the test cases. That's not how it works, right? So we have the third requirement that it should have at least one number in it. So let's quickly, like, that will be an easy one. So let's quickly implement this. Should have at least one number. So like, let's quickly say expect validate password, and let's give like @ as well, but no numbers. So we have, but there's no numbers, so we'll say okay, so this will throw an error, right? So to throw, what it should throw, should have at least one number. That's the next requirement, and we have saved it. Great. So our test case again failed. We'll write the logic in the test again. So we'll say if like I think for this it will be like 1 to 9 dot test, right? So if there is no number, this is the regex for this, I guess, and then str and then throw new error, right? Should have at least one number, right? So if there is no 1 to 9 characters, it should have at least one numbers, and that's how you test it. Let me open my headphone, right? Okay, so once we have done this, we'll save this, and that should pass all our test case. Okay, so it is not passing. What does that mean? This is what, this is very important, because our regex was wrong, I think so, right? It is not passing. So like, should have at least like, oh, so I think okay, I think, let me check it. Yeah, it's passing. Okay, great. So if someone makes a mistake, let's say if I have written a wrong regex, right, it would have given me like that, like it would have informed me, right? Because we have already written that. But we'll write additional checks. So we'll write should validate several passwords properly. So let's give several passwords, and if everything is correct, we'll return true. So if everything is correct, we'll return true, right? So let's give some password. So we'll say should return true if password is valid, right? So we have this next test case. Let's quickly, this one will be very, very easy to make. Let's quickly do this. Let's give some valid password, @1. This is a valid password, I guess. So we'll write this should be true. So if you don't have an error, you can simply skip giving a callback function and you can directly pass this. So it should be true, right? So if we pass this, there you go. So now these two functions have been fully tested, and you know how to write test cases generally in like a normal TypeScript project, right? Great. So I think TypeScript testing we are pretty fine with TypeScript testing. The next stage of this is basically we'll be going to React testing, right? So how do you test React components for when they're clicked and all those things? So yeah, we'll be doing that next. But before that, let's drink some water, because water is important. Right, so let's quickly set up a project for React. Why I'm setting up a project is because, and why I have done this separately like a TypeScript and React project is because I think you guys would also like to know how to set this thing up, right? So now all our 7 test cases are passing into 2 different modules. So one module is this one, another module is this one. That's great. Now we can get rid of this requirement. There you go. Great. So next thing what we'll do is we'll just get rid of all these things, and let's set up let's set this thing up for basically a React project, right? Any questions on, all of you guys who are watching, any questions on how to do it, whatever I have done right now with TypeScript? Any questions on that? If you guys have, you could ask me, or we'll continue with React, right? So yeah. Okay, let's go back. Let's write so we'll create a normal Vite application. So we'll say yarn create Vite, and then we'll name it testing application. I don't know, testing learn. Let's learn testing. Yeah, let's name it learn testing. Very simple name. We'll be using React for this project, and we'll be using TypeScript with SWC for this project. And we have learn testing. Great. And let's quickly open this in VS Code. Great. So let's quickly install all the dependencies. And this is a normal Vite project. We'll be setting this up for testing right now. We'll see how to do that. I think the documentation have everything. By the way, there are a few things which I wouldn't recommend you guys to basically follow from the documentation. I'll talk about them in a while, but let's first. Great. So now we have all those amazing stuff. So what we'll do is we'll run this project. So if I just do yarn dev, you will see this is the project. Amazing stuff. Now let's make a very simple application. We'll try to create a very simple application. So we'll go to app.tsx. Again, let's not create the application first. I just want to clean the project up. So .css, I just want to get rid of almost everything from here, and then we should have an index.css. Sorry, let's get rid of everything from here as well. Great. So now we have a very simple React application, and let's return div from there. Yeah, there you go. So we have a blank Vite application. So we'll be setting a testing environment for this React project. Let's see how you can do that. By the way, this is in the documentation as well. So let's go and see the Jest documentation. So if you go over here, I don't know, where was I? Yeah. So using TypeScript, so using Vite, right? So you can see this Vite Jest comes here. You can use this, and but I wouldn't recommend you to set this thing up like this. I have a tutorial which I mostly follow for setting up Vite project. I'll just show you. Okay, so I just write Jest Vite TypeScript, right? It's in the medium. Yeah, this you can see this one. Is this one? No, this is not the one. This one. So I'll be providing a link in the description below, but before that, let's kind of like go through this together, right? So it's very simple to follow. First, we need to install a few of the dependencies, and let's while installing, I'll be also explaining why do we need them. First thing, we need Jest. Jest is the library which gives you the test and all those functions. Next, we are using this testing library, right? /React. Why do we need testing library? Because this gives you the render method. Now why do you need render method? Because you want to render your component in your test, right? So that you could perform various functionalities in your test, right? So that React library gives you a render function. It also gives you a very important thing called screen. Screen lets you do a lot of things which we will see right now once we start testing it. Now the next thing what we need is we need tsjest. We already know this is like used for testing like TypeScript Jest application. Next thing we need is type/jest. We already know, you already saw why do we need this, and we need TS node. I don't know why they have specified TS node. Let's copy it. There are a lot of dependencies. I'll eventually explain you why do we need. I think we don't need all of them, but let's install this. We'll think about that later on. So first thing what you need to do is you need to create a jest.setup.ts file. Let's quickly do that. jest.setup.ts file, and let's copy paste this. It's just angry at me, so let's quickly copy this again. I think this we have spelled something wrong, so we'll just say yarn add -d, right? So we have done this jest.setup.ts file, and next thing what you have to do is you have to create jest.config.js file. So let's create jest.config.js file. config.js file, and inside that you have to just copy paste this. Hold on. No, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna press this over here. Great. The next thing what we need to do is we need to, okay, so now handling styles and svg, we can ignore this. So yeah, once we have all of these set up, next thing it's very simple. We can just go and create like similar kind of folder called test __ test, right? And next thing what we can do is we can just create the first test, which is index.test.ts. index.test.ts. Yeah, there you go. So we have our testing environment ready. Let's write our first test and let's see how does it go. Expect, testing. There's nothing new over here. We'll see what is new in a while, but let's first write this, right? So I don't know what is wrong in this. So it should not be like this. Okay, this is wrong. So it should be test, right? There you go. So if I run the test right now, how to run the test? First of all, what you have to do is you have to go to your package.json file. Here you have to add a test, test script, and then you have to just write jest. The process is quite same for both of them. And now what you can do is you can run yarn test, and it will run pretty smooth. You can ignore these errors because this is in the Vite itself, some package deprecated, but you can see your test passed, right? That's great. Now what we'll do is we'll create a very simple component over here, which for testing. So let's create a component. We'll say password creator or tsx, right? So let's create a very simple React application, which is password creator, right? Will not write any implementation right now. First test cases, always remember, first you have to write your test case, and then after that comes the implementation. So I think this will not directly work. There is few things still we need to do. This will throw an error once we import that, I think so. Password creator, and from this testing library you get a function called render, right? So I'll just show you @testing library/react, and let's try to render this. Let's see. I think you'll get some error right now. It's just angry at me. Why? Because I have named the file ts. It should be tsx if you want to use any of the JSX. Yeah, there you go. This is great. Now what we'll do is we'll run the test again, and I think it should give us issues. Yes, it gave us issues. Now let's see what is the issue. The issue is --JSX is not set for this project. So I think the solution for me was, when I was setting this up, the solution for me was in the v config.ts, I think I added there was a thing called I absolutely don't remember what was that. Okay. So the next thing is handling absolute imports, right? So you have to, let's quickly do this. I think this is the error. This is the reason why we are facing the error. So we'll say yarn add the development dependency, write tsconfig paths, and yeah, this should not throw an error, but okay. So let's quickly let me quickly look at like my previous setup. Actually there was some configuration which I am forgetting, so we'll see the setup which I did before. So hold on, I don't even remember the name of the project. So there you go. So the project, it totally works on this, and yeah, we'll just close all of them. So we'll see what is the configuration. So let's open void.config. So this is quite important for us, so we'll add this in our current project, right? So this is important because yeah, this will fix our issue. Why, I don't know. I think I've searched on Stack Overflow and I got the solution and it works probably. So now if I run, still it's not working. Cannot use JSX. Why it cannot use? Yeah, one more thing. I think it was in your TS config, right? Here in the top level, you have to add compiler options, I guess, and then ES to true, ES module interrupt to true, and then if you run this, it should be all fine. No, it's not fine. Okay, let's see what is the issue. Cannot use JSX until the JSX flag let's try to Google this error. Let's try to find the solution why we are getting cannot use JSX unless, yeah, this is the error we are getting. I think, yeah, so the problem is, okay, so here you can see JSX React JSX, right? That's what we have to do over here. So it doesn't go to yeah, so JSX React JSX, and then it would work probably. No, it's still failing. Cannot find module DOM. Let's try to find this. The React is the installation is failing, which should not happen. Okay. Installations are the worst part. The setup, you know, always things keep changing, and I think, okay, so yeah, on test, still not working. We'll see why this is. We'll try to fix it and then continue with the React testing part. So yep, let's see my previous setup and we'll try to mimic that. So we have this as we want, then we need ts config should be like this, which is the same in our case. Ts config is like this, and what else? ts config.json. Let's see. So let's see, just config. Is this something else? I think just config is the exact same thing. Insane. So it's saying it cannot find this DOM library. So let's kind of install this. This should solve our issue. Yeah, does that solve our issue? Yes, success. So we got it. So now, as you can see, you know, we have successfully tested. So basically the normal steps is, you know, you can do like, you have to install that DOM package which you saw. You have to modify your you know, your vite config.ts to like this configuration, which is ES build JSX inject, something like this. And next thing what you have to do is, in your ts config file, you have to add these two compiler options, and once you do this, you're good to go. Okay, so once we do this, we can test our React application. We have rendered this and our test is passing, so that means this guy is rendering properly. That at least we can be sure about that. What is the next thing? Like, what are we making? Let's write the requirements, right? Let's write the requirements. It should be like, there should be a input for writing the password, right? So there should be some input for writing the password. So let's kind of test that. So there should be some input. So this gives you the like the components. We'll just call it com, right? And then what you can do is, you can do several very interesting things with this. So you can get the password field, right? So by saying com.find, right, com.find, and you can find throughout the DOM, like inside whatever password creator. So you can say find by test ID, and I'll tell you what test ID is, right, in a while. But let's first first be with me, right? So I'll just say await, and then this will be async, right? There you go. So now this test case will fail. So if I just say yarn test hyphen watch, right? So yarn test hyphen watch all, right? So this test should fail, I guess. Yeah, you can see the test hasn't failed. Why the test failed? Because there is nothing called a password field inside this component, right? So there's no password field we have created so far, right? Also, let's move this panel to right. Okay, so we are failing the test case. One test case failed, right? So okay, so let's now, the first thing what we'll do is we'll create a password field. So we'll just create an input, and we'll and then you can specify a test ID, right? So it's called data test ID, and you can see the reason also. If you like dig a little bit deeper into your stuff, it says there is nothing called data test ID right over here. So that's what you have to provide. So for searching this, it uses this. So we can say pass. If you do this, your test case will pass probably. Yeah, it's passing. That means that it has found this input inside your password. So there's something like an input with a test ID password, right? So great. So now we have a input. Second thing what we have to test is the input should not be disabled, right? Because tomorrow some intern could come and disable this, and now your all application broke, right? So it should not be disabled. It could be a test, it could not be a test. I'm just showing you as an example, like how you could do this, right? So the way you do this is, in the password, what I'll do is I'll type something, and I'll check whether that whatever I've typed is getting typed or not, right? So what I'll do is I'll just type something in the password field. So so let's say password dot. So there is something called, so for doing any user action, we have a user event, in the testing library we have a user event library. So I'll just show you, right? So it's user event library. So using the user event library, what you can do is you can simulate any kind of user event, like for example click, type, any of those things, right? So what I can do is I can write user event dot type, and then what you do passes two things. First of all, where do you want to type? I want to type in the password. And what do you want to type? I want to type, let's say 123. So now this will go and type into that 123, right? After this, what we're going to do is we're going to be so we're going to wait for this. So we're going to say await, right? And now the value of this password, right, should be like whatever we wrote should be there in this, right? Because if it is not disabled, it should be there, right? So now what I'll do is I'll just check that expect the pass dot value, right? Right now I'll have to write like ts ignore right now. So this is like some JavaScript weird thing, but we'll continue. So the value of the password should be whatever we have typed, 123. So if it is not disabled, it should be what we have typed. So as you can see, our test case is passing. So now if we disable this, right, you will see our test case will be failing, I guess. Yeah, it's failing because our input field is disabled. So in a disabled input field, you cannot type anything, so the value would not work, right? So now this will be passing. So no intern could come and now change your input to disabled, right? Great. So now once we do that, the next thing what we have to test is there should be some result over here. There should be a field called result, in which if the password written is valid, it should be valid written, and if the password result is invalid, inside the test, invalid should be written, right? So let's see how we can do that. So now what you need is you need that res thing. So for that res, what we'll do is we'll just go over here. We'll say com.find, again same thing, find by test ID. You can find by a lot of things. You can find by like placeholder, you can find by what is the inner text, you can find by almost anything, but right now let's do it by test ID, right? So I'll just find whatever called res. Now the test case will fail because we don't have anything called res. Oh wait, this is weird. Oh, the pass because we did not await. So we'll have to write await, and as soon as I do that, the test failed. Why does the test fail? Because it could not find anything with an ID res inside our password creator. So let's quickly create that. So we'll say div let's say data test id, and let's call it res, and this should pass our test because now it will find something which has the test id res. Great. Once we have done this, the next step is, it should, like, once we type 123 right over there, right, it should be invalid because the password is invalid, right? And let's use the same function which we created before for validating the password. So we will create maybe a utility util.ts file which will export that function. How do we get that function? So I think this is the one. Not sure though. Yeah, I think this is the function which we wrote. So let's quickly take this like testing dot, like, let's take our password validation function which we wrote over here, and let's use the same function in our case, right? So we'll use the same function, and let's take the test cases as well. So we'll have all those test cases as well. That will be fun, right? So now we can go to the test, and we can wait, where is our test? This is not the one, this is the one. Okay, so we'll take the test, and we'll have all the password validation test from here. So we have already copied, we can get rid of this, and we can pass this in the index.test.ts file, right? So we can just maybe paste this below this, right? So we have all the password validator test, and now what we can do is we can import this very simply. Great. Now what we can do is we can, so 123 is an invalid password, right? So the value inside res, the text content inside res should be invalid, right? So we'll say res, so expect res.text content. So what is the text content inside this? To be, right, to be what it should be, right? It should be invalid because the password is invalid, right? Because if you remember what we prepared before, the rules for the password where it should have like some special character, some at least one number, it should be at least 4, and it does not validate that. And now you can see our test case is red. From starting only, I'm saying it should be red green test. So if our test fails, let's correct our test, and let's implement something over here which kind of makes our test pass, right? So we can say valid, set valid, and we can say use state, and then we can say your test should not care about the logic of your component. It should only expect the behavior, right? It should only care about the behavior. It should not care about what the logic is. So it's very important. So now we have done that. What we'll do is we'll just go inside this, and we'll just write that logic. So if it is valid, then it should be valid, otherwise it should be invalid, right? And then whenever this changes, let's quickly do that. So on change, so set valid e dot validate password e dot target dot value. Now the test case wouldn't pass. I'll tell you why test case wouldn't pass. I think it wouldn't pass. Yeah, see, it didn't pass. Why this didn't pass? Because this function throws an error. It doesn't return true or false, right? So what we have to do is we have to just like do like try like this, get the value, right? And right, it sets the value to true. Otherwise, if it catches some error, right, we can set the value to false. Great stuff, right? So we can just set the value which is kind of true. Yeah, so this is now all our test is passing. That means all the component is perfectly working fine, right? So this is how you write a normal test for React applications over here, right? So we have tested our password creator, and what we have tested is that it should, like, there should be valid or invalid based on, there should be valid or invalid based on whatever the input of the user is, directly using jest. So you saw this, right? If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise we'll move to some other stuff, maybe next example. Do you guys have any questions? Any questions for me? Maybe we can keep this in its own section. I don't know, password creator component, right? And then we can write all the tests inside this. Yeah, there you go. Testing password creator, right? There you go. Great stuff. So now we have written the tests for password creator, and great. So this was the level 1, right? So probably today we'll be doing till here, right? The level 2 is mocking functions, mocking databases, mocking. So you have to mock a lot of stuff, and your component, your component should determine, should think like everything else, should be mocked. So it should, for that component, everything else is perfect, kind of perfect. You can remember, like, you can think of it like that, right? So your unit test should not depend on some external factor. So unit test should, individually test that particular unit of your application. It should not be like you're doing some SQL queries, for inside your database. That should not be the case in your unit test. So this was the video so far. I am ready to answer any one of your questions. If you guys have no questions, we'll probably close the stream right now. So yeah, if you have questions, feel free to ask. We'll be doing a part 2 of this, where we'll be learning how to mock databases, how to mock functions, how to mock all those things. I don't see any questions, so we'll be wrapping this up. Thank you guys for watching, and have a really, really great day.